Put it up!
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy.
Put it up! Put it up! Put it up!
Get on. Bitch, I came back with the jacket, that's a shell. Dropping my target, I'm wishing you well. I don't think playing your help.
Well, the blade was Ford mentioned. Maybe we can put
Oh, Jesus, here we go. Riggs, maybe you should just get your text out of the way so that I can, purchase my stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, we're looking at the Remnant here. This is my opening couple of hours, and at this point in the game, I am absolutely sick to the back teeth of it. It's got an opening of 2 hours that you really need to be a strong individual to get through, particularly offline and on your own. So I am testing this game or reviewing this game in the first half with an idea of doing it completely solo. So I have probably bitten off a little bit more than I can chew. And some of the stuff, especially the cosmetics, I'm like, brilliant, I'm going to get a new, outfit. Let's have a look at that. Let's upgrade that. Let's see all the cool armor. I'm wearing a damn necklace. I'm thinking this can't get any worse, what I look like. Oh, here we go. That hat. I'd shoot me in that hat. At this point, I'm looking at a drab world. I'm walking around a Darksiders 3 clone, by what I can tell. I am absolutely stuck because I'm not sure whether I'm going in the right direction, whether I'm heading towards the right boss. You can see in the map that I've got no mission markers whatsoever. I've got no direction whatsoever. I do have a skull on the map, which I'm assuming is the boss for the first stage, but I don't think I've got to it yet. I'm 7 hours in. But anyway, that's where I am. That's where my mindset is in the opening 2 hours of this game. I'm thinking, okay, I like the ballistics, I like the dodge and roll. Is it doing anything that I haven't already seen before? It's a solid no. Right down to the visuals, right down to the weapon types, right down to the dodge and roll. And then I came up to my first boss. Cheap Tactics doesn't even come close to describing what this boss does. It's tiny, it teleports, and it can actually insta-kill you with an aerial drop bomb that comes down from above, that homes in on your position and will slam you 3 times in a row and stagger you, and also give you Ebola. Alright, and also you can see that I'm bleeding as well. And there's also random enemies spawning into this map. So it's one of the most harrowing experiences because you have no idea where this individual is going to teleport. You're running around a circuit in this massive courtyard and it's just awful. The noises, the whole crescendo of everything happening constantly, again and again and again. I did it 11 attempts. I did this 11 attempts. It was absolutely horrible, and I had to work out what to take with me to combat the bleeding and to combat the bags of Ebola that were getting thrown at me. But then I killed it.
Come on.
It was a Dark Souls level of achievement. It was a Dark Souls moment. It was also a watershed moment for me in the game where I felt that I'd actually got my head around how the whole damn thing works. Essentially, this is not a looter shooter. Not by any stretch. You start with 3 slots and you end with 3 slots. And you can choose between, a shotgun and a pistol, and there's also 3 different class tiers, so that you can have one that's got a sniper, you can have one that's got a different melee close quarters weapon. But it was interesting because just like Dark Souls, you can buy those weapons off the trader anyway. So with my newfound confidence of killing that damn shroud thing, I'm like, okay, well, I'm prepared to give this game a bit more time. I'm prepared to have a look around, and sure enough, I was welcomed with some really gorgeous environments. I'm making my way, or I'm in a derelict subway now, and I'm starting to enjoy the colours. I'm starting to enjoy the palette a bit more. It's giving me a lot more visual range. And of course, I've got this special rune on my pistol. You can see that it throws out this funny spore that acts as an attraction to these tree creatures, which reminds me, I'm thinking tree creatures, Groot, I mean, really, this is the trope? I mean, goddamn, you couldn't come up with something a bit more terrifying? But bear with me on that one. And I'm also really interested in the environments, full stop. The palette's cool, I like it. It's got this sort of, I don't know if you remember a game called Stalker, it's got this almost Chernobyl-y greyness to it, and I actually don't mind that. Then things start getting a little bit crowd control-y. I'm like, hold on a minute, there's a few of them up there, and there's a few different types. This one's a fire one, and remember, I've only just killed the first boss. There's this seriously evil dude turns up who is a special enemy, and when they come in, you hear a noise. It's like a funny little high-pitched whine. And that's an indicator that a special enemy's just spawned in. Now, they drop a particular rare form of crafting material, but they're also quite fun to deal with. They have a slightly ramped up AI, and I was very much enjoying that. Things got even more interesting, and this is the second watershed moment in the game, which is a defense horde section, where I'm actually trying to, Jarvis Cocker style, help this poor older person survive.
Help the aged.
And it relentlessly sends you waves and waves of enemies. Whilst all this is going on, I couldn't help but think, I'm a bona fide badass now. I've got my head around this roll mechanic. There's an immune window that you can take advantage of, as with all, Souls of games. There's a couple of frames where you can't be hit, and I managed to sort of work out the parameters of that. I mean, you're looking at a nanosecond. I'm also rolling wrong. Just tapping X on its own makes you step back passively. You just step back, you don't roll at all, and it's almost like a dodge in itself, and it means that you are facing the right direction still, and you haven't got, you haven't changed your line of sight. So I panic and actually roll back. You don't need to. You can look into that in more detail with some walkthroughs. But then I'm on to a new section now, and the whole thing's range. It's all gone range. I've got my long range sniper rifle, and I am I'm forced into cover. These guys are trying to pincer me. It's totally different kettle of fish. And now I get my first real boss, my first proper set-piece boss. It really does remind me of Dark Souls, because this thing is incredibly well choreographed. It looks very good. The textures on the actual monster model itself take a little bit of a desire. But look at this destructive mechanic on the cars. Look at the panic and the sheer size of the arena that I'm fighting this thing in. That was really good. And I remembered how much I fell in love with the original Dark Souls games, and how much I love Souls bosses. They have pulled in a lot of that greatness. Now, this is extremely interesting. This is the melee attack, which kind of chains up. There's no combos, but you cannot shoot your gun without aiming. So if you just push R2, you'll do this. You won't shoot. You have to have L2 in, Call of Duty style, and then shoot from there. Now, check this out. This game is all about frame rates and brilliant control and tiny little nuances within your moves, and it does this to me. Now, I'm not sure if that is me just being a bit crap with my aim, but it didn't do it to me again. But I watched the footage and I remember thinking I should have shot that guy clean in the face, but it didn't happen. But it's not a recurring error, but it was just interesting to notice that a game that falls back on such precision went and gave me the middle finger when I tried to, reach equivalence. But now we get to the interesting part, and of course it is when I went online. So if you don't know, Remnant from the Ashes is billed as a co-op online shooter. It is. I shouldn't really be wandering around this place on my own.
Really way too scarily real.
You can, of course, it's a single player game. Yes, you can play the entire thing offline on your own. It can be done, people do it, it's not unheard of course it's not unheard of. But it's far more difficult. I don't know if the enemy types have buffed health when there's more of you, a la Monster World, you know, when they ramp it up, but I imagine they probably would. Anyway, me and this random, I'm like, okay, cool, this will be a boss arena. It wasn't a boss, it was a tracked wave arena, and it was brilliant. It felt so much better having someone over my shoulder or at another angle, you know, helping me out with these hordes of monsters. It was fantastic, to be quite truthful, and I from there on in was completely hooked to having it co-op. This is me helping my mate out. Look at this, look, my moment of truth here. No bullets, don't play online with me, for God's sakes. Story-wise, I do not have a clue what's going on in this game, and you don't need to, but it does have its fair share of weird shit.
What's your profanity?
Like, you get to this labyrinth section of the game where it's almost a hub that you can decide which world to access. Very cool, a bit like Demon Souls had that. And I do like the fact that it doesn't adhere to any rules in regards to reality and lore. It's just batshit crazy, it doesn't care, it throws everything at you. There's also a cool section here which reminded me a little bit of Resident Evil 5, despite the fact that everyone's white. But it was really amazing to see this like crazy village, and these guys with tusks, and they behaved differently. They mixed it up a lot for us, and we were, of course, I was online at this point as well, and it just felt so cool. The game, I realised that the game was made from the ground up to have more than one person playing it, and that becomes evident in some of the late game bosses as well. Now, how does the loot work? You're probably thinking, what the fuck, I haven't seen you pick up any gun. The guns that you get are rewarded from the bosses or found in random different locations on each playthrough of each map. If you look at this game to do a set for set walkthrough through, like I had to do at the start because I was convinced I was going for the wrong boss, I had to sit through Radley Bloody Bradley's
with your smug British attitude
video of it, but the whole map was different on his playthrough because there's some procedural generation with the structures, enemy placement and loot drops. How intelligent is that? That means that this game needs to be played through multiple times, and it means that if you want a good gun, if you want a game-winning gun, you're not going to kill a game-winning boss to get it. So you're not jostling constantly in your infantry, working out what's going where. You find a good gun, you stick with it. Incidentally, there's an Uzi in the base that you start at. Look that up, because I kept that gun through the majority of the bulk of the play of the latter part of the game. It was amazing, and it's in Ward 13. So this brings me to my closing statement. The walk up to this thing, I used to dread it. I used to hate it. I was like, I've got to review this game, I've got to get the first boss done. The walk to this thing now is a complete U-turn in attitude. I absolutely love this game. It's hard, it's mean, it's amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, Remnant to the Ashes, I completely recommend it. I shall see you down there.